Morning, everybody. All those people sitting in the back, there's about 3 rows of empty seats up front, so please, come on down. My name is Oded Salomy. I'm General Manager for Visa in Israel, as well as managing an innovation center that we have here. I want to spend a little time this morning telling you about what Visa is doing to help transform the world of payments. But before we do that, I'd like to ask each of you to raise your hand if you have a Visa card in your pocket. Okay, so that's the majority of the room. Depending on the market, usually it's either the majority or almost the majority of the room. And as an organization, we think about how can we use that enormous deployment to try to help move that card into the digital space. Oh, I guess I need a clicker. Where's that? So we have $7.4 trillion in payments that we're moving across the world on 2.4 billion cards, 40 million merchants, 16,000 banks. That's almost every bank in the world. By the way, the number of banks is shrinking, but as they shrink, we continue to work with all of them. In over 200 countries, including, of course, Israel. And it's all done over one network called VisaNet. That is quite phenomenal. These are numbers that are hard to grasp. And all that activity, including with most of you sitting in the room, is thought of as something we do on a plastic card, a physical device that you can put in your pocket or in your wallet, hold in your hand. But if we think about it, a Visa card is not a plastic card. A Visa card is a set of credentials that identify you, might connect to your bank account, might not, and enable you to make a payment. And we spend a lot of time thinking about how can we make those credentials something that you use more and more effectively and easily in the digital space. And that's already happening. Some of us get it psychologically, some of us understand it intellectually, but maybe not emotionally yet. But if we think about it, all of us have bought things on the internet using e-commerce. We've bought things on our phones, which we call m-commerce or mobile commerce. In many markets, the previous speaker was also mentioning contactless payments, where you can take your card and put it near a terminal, or take your phone using Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or Android Pay and put it near a terminal. So it's become a contactless payment, even though there is a physical element to it. We've already begun to see payments over the Internet of Things, and we don't know what the next big thing is. But this thing, your digital credentials on your Visa card, has already begun to penetrate the enormous world of devices. As Visa, we've taken a strong look at what our banks are doing with the Visa platforms that they manage or how they connect with our platform, and recognize that there's lots of value that we can add to our clients in this space. So we've opened innovation centers across the world. And what we do in these innovation centers, we bring in a client, which is normally a bank or a retailer, and co-create with them. We say, well, what's your pain point? What do you want to do? You want to launch a wallet? You want to improve the customer experience? You want to make it easier to buy something on someone's mobile phone? Why don't we sit together and build? And to me, it's quite phenomenal that in a very short space of time, I think it's 2 or 3 years, we've launched innovation centers in San Francisco, Miami, Sao Paulo, London, Berlin, Dubai, Singapore, and Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv will soon grow, and there will be another city on here shortly, which I can't tell you about, but there will be a big launch. We've also looked at the way we've done things traditionally and the way the world looks now. So traditionally, payments have been driven by banks who issue cards and enable you to make a payment. But what about all the large technology companies? Have they become significant enough in the payment ecosystem for us to begin working with them? Well, obviously, yes. We heard about some of them in the previous presentation. So we've teamed up with Apple to enable Apple Pay on iPhones and on Apple Watches. We've teamed up with Samsung to enable Samsung Pay on Samsung phones, Android Pay on Android phones. And when we think about strategic partnerships with large tech companies, we don't limit ourselves to mobile phone manufacturers. Why not IBM, for example, which we saw in the previous 2 presentations ago, focused on blockchain, but IBM is also quite strong in making payments on the Internet of Things. How are we going to access the billions of devices that are connected now? Well, we can do that with partners. Why not Facebook? Why not Amazon. So as an organization, we've made a significant shift, which might sound trivial, but it is actually quite a big change worldwide, where we work not only with our banks, but also with large technology companies, help them working together to enable the consumer to get a better experience, if we think about what Michal Kisa said in her presentation. And we've tried to identify some areas that we want to focus on. No surprises here. We've got next generation acceptance. If any of you have seen, certainly in Israel, I've seen micro merchants that will take either a tablet or a smartphone, connect a device to it, and enable you to make a payment. There are companies across the world that are doing this, and it's really driven a lot of new payments. I don't know if any of you have had the experience of having to make a payment to someone who comes with a delivery to your house. I have in Israel, just as a regular consumer, and it always used to be you had to go scramble for cash, but now you can make it electronically, and that really has begun to transform our experience. Push payments, micropayments, B2B payments, Internet of Things, fraud and security is a huge space in Israel that we're looking at, identity and authentication, big data between machines, between people and retailers, and on and on. And next generation issuing is also very interesting. How can I get a Visa credential account without having to go through the long process of receiving a plastic card in the mail or in my bank branch? And we've developed some programs specifically around some of these subjects. Mobile point of sale, we've got dozens of manufacturers now that enable micro merchants to accept payments on their phone or their tablet. Biometric authentication is particularly interesting. Make a payment by blinking, make a payment by looking. We've seen startups offering us to enable people to make a payment by breathing or just through their heartbeat, because all these things are unique to us as individuals and they can identify us. Internet of Things, how are machines going to pay other machines? And I'll show you a quick demo about that. The fastest, quickest win, which is quite now easy to implement, are wearables. So we've teamed up with Swatch and launched Swatch watches in Switzerland and Brazil, and there will be more to come, which enable people to pay with their watch. Just buy a Swatch watch, which is quite affordable, put the watch near the terminal, make a payment that way. I've got a wristband here, which is a Visa wristband, which it actually has money on it. If I go to a contactless terminal, which again is not that common in Israel yet, but for those of you from other markets, you might be familiar with it, put it near the terminal, make a payment. Let's see, which ring? I've got this ring here, which we launched at the Olympics in Brazil, which enables you, again, to pay. It's got Visa credentials on it. I also have a key ring here with keys on it. This key fob is also a contactless device, which enables you to pay. We recently launched mass market wearables in Cyprus. So the majority of consumers who live in Cyprus now are able to make payments with the wristband, similar in Greece now. And this will become a much more common, not such a niche experience as we go forward. Now, these aren't necessarily digital, but they are the first step to thinking about making payments with Visa credentials other than a plastic card. One big space that has emerged and that we're looking at, and is very relevant in Israel because of the amazing software industry here, is connected car. So if you think about when you drive, before you drive, after you drive, how you take care of your car, think about all the commerce elements there are there. I mean, I've even heard of the idea that a car is actually a store, because when we go to the supermarket and shop, we then put all the groceries in our trunk and come back. Well, why not have my car shop for me while I am at work, and then I can take my groceries home. We can make payments from the car as we pay for gas, as we pay for parking, even through some of the infotainment systems if we want to buy something using the screen in the car. Many use cases here. And what we did was we teamed up with some car manufacturers, and I mentioned the innovation centers earlier. If you go to some of our larger innovation centers in San Francisco and London, you can actually see a physical car in the office building, which shows you how the car can be used to make a payment without human intervention almost. And when I was in San Francisco, I actually not only saw the Honda, but there was a video running in the background showing us one of the two use cases. One is paying for gas, the other is paying for parking. And even though there's no sound, I thought it would be cool to show it to you, so let's take a look. I'll just narrate it for you. So a car drives into the gas station, automatically detects there's a fuel pump on the screen in the car. It identifies that you can pay if you'd like, choose your pump number, choose the amount you want to pay. In this case, the consumer only wants to fill it for $20. confirms the amount, Visa credentials already saved in the screen, exits the car, pumps the gas. So notice they don't need to put their physical credit card in. When they're done, there's an electronic receipt which is automatically saved and you can access on your email. So that's one example of a connected car concept that is done with a large auto manufacturer, which again, quite difficult. It's like working with a bank. You know, it takes a long time to impact their processes. In working with us on technology initiatives, we've categorized the types of work into three. So first, if you're a technology company, you can build on Visa's capabilities using our network of assets and capabilities that we've developed, some of which I've just described. You can partner with us, and we've entered partnerships with the large tech companies, but we've begun to work with some of the smaller ones, including in Israel. And you can also leverage our product packages, which I'll say more about in a minute. Visa Developer Program is a platform that anyone can access. We have now, and this is again a very revolutionary thing for Visa, this wasn't the case just a few years ago, we have now opened up most of our legacy systems with APIs to the external world. So if you think about the trillions of dollars that we're moving every year, you know, the biggest fear is that somebody is going to hack this system, which hasn't happened, so we're glad about that. That is, again, not a trivial matter. But we've also said, you know what, we are going to go ahead and take this step, open it up to the developer community, and let you connect. So we've got, for example, a product called Visa Direct, which enables you to make person-to-person payments. So if you raised your hand that you have a Visa card, and you raised your hand that you have a Visa card, a developer in the room could connect through our API to Visa Direct and move money from you to you on your cards. Or another example is consumer transaction controls. So if you want to limit the amount of money that your employee can spend on their card, or the types of merchants where they can pay, or the geographies where they pay, or the type of transactions that they will be allowed to make, whether they'll be physical person-to-person payments, or whether they'll be remote payments on the internet or m-commerce, all these things can be controlled by connecting to our APIs. And because we've published all these APIs, it is now possible to mash them up, not only with each other, but also with APIs from other tech companies. So in this example, we've got a social shopping experience in a mobile app that is developable, or if that's a word. Connect a Visa API with Google, with Instagram, enable the consumer not only to define the type of experience that he or she wants, but also share it with their friends. All readily available. All you need to do is log in without interacting with us. Of course, we're happy to interact with you, but it might be faster just to go online. And specifically for Israel, we are looking at more meaningful relationships with startups, although this is something that we're doing worldwide. We just kind of categorize that into three types of programs. So we recently closed our program called the Visa Everywhere Initiative. Well, closed it for Israel and the Visa Europe territory. Let me explain what I mean by that. We announced an initiative worldwide where startups can apply to show their technology or their idea to Visa, and then we have a competition in specific areas that we define to choose which startups seem to be the most promising. This is a program that we launched across the world in various regions. We did Asia Pacific, we just did Visa Europe. Visa Europe territory includes Israel, and we invited startups to apply to compete in this space. We had more applications from Israel than any other Visa Europe territory, so we're very proud about that. And the finalists will be presenting at Money 2020 in Copenhagen later this month. And that is a program interesting to track because it gives a very easy way for startups to engage with Visa and catch our attention. Visa Ready is another program that enables any technology company to go through a certification program and be labeled Visa Ready. And that's quite common in the mobile point of sale space that I was describing earlier. If you've got an idea that fits into one of the Visa Ready categories and go through the certification program, then banks and retailers feel much more comfortable and are much more likely to adopt your technology because we do have such large reach across the world. And Visa Ventures is something we're very glad that we were able to bring to Israel, and we will grow in the months and years to come. And that is our venture arm. So it's a group of people in Visa worldwide which looks at early stage technology companies and makes investments. We were early investors in Stripe and Square and LoopPay, which was used by Samsung for Samsung Pay, and the list goes on. And we are now actively looking at Israeli startups that may be interesting for our ecosystem. So if you'd like to collaborate with us, what spaces would make sense from a technology perspective? One thing that really interests us is new segments. if there is a particular type of payment that is not using cards that interests us, maybe it's farming, maybe it's kiosks. Depends on the market and depends on the size of the segment, but it is definitely something that we'd be interested in learning more about. Improving the user experience, we've heard a lot about, and we will continue to hear a lot about. We want it to be easy to pay in any environment at any time. Expanding acceptance is causing businesses that don't accept cards to begin accepting cards, and also new partnerships. So if you're a company that you think would make sense for a partnership with Visa, you need to achieve some scale. It can't be too early stage, but that is something we'd be interested to discuss with you. And who knows, maybe there's something we haven't thought of yet, and you'd like to introduce to our thinking. So before I close, I'd like to show you a video which we need to put in context. So we heard about blockchain, very much about the enterprise solutions that blockchain can offer to make processes more efficient. That was an early presentation by IBM. But we thought about, and when I say we, I'm talking about the local Tel Aviv innovation team at Visa, well, maybe blockchain could be interesting for the consumer experience. This is not a Visa product. This is not something we can offer anyone who wants it. It was just an experiment, a POC, which seems to have worked quite well. We'd like to share it with you. We as an organization don't know what we're going to do with this yet, but we thought we'd share it with you because it's the kind of thing we like to do with early stage startups in Tel Aviv. Let's take a look.
We found that the Florentine shekel and community currency vision to be really impressive and want to take part of that journey.
The Florentine shekel
transaction based on credit card, one of the first in the world, the first in Israel.
We're going to open a new community here in Israel, in a city called Haifa, in Liverpool in the UK, and very, very soon in Shoreditch in London.
We think that us collaborating with the ecosystem will benefit consumers, merchants, and banks.
And we're only looking forward to seeing the transaction volumes continue to rise.
So in case you didn't get it, you can now go into the App Store, download the Kolu app, go to Florentine, which is in southern Tel Aviv, and make payments. You won't even know it, but you are making payments on the blockchain when you do that. So thank you for listening. Please follow me on Twitter, and if you'd like to engage with Visa, we've got 4 people from our team here. So Shahar, Roi, who you saw in the video, Antonella, and Monet. Please feel free. Come talk to us and see how we can work together. And of course, I'm available for you as well. Thank you.